After this situation, very little time passed, and Lady Blank did not even suspect what had just happened. She was just going to go for a walk in the garden and have a good time. But at this time, a girl hurried to her who wanted to tell her something urgently. They said hello, and now Lady Blank is knowing something she couldn't have expected. The girl understood that they wanted to tell her something, and began to worry. After that, the girl who came asked if Lady Blank felt how other girls treated her. This question seemed strange enough, and she couldn't understand what it meant. And immediately she learns that yesterday Lady Thuram was expelled by order of the Emperor. But she didn't understand how Carl influenced this. And is it really because she is the daughter of that woman? It turns out that, from now on, the head of the Thuram family is not a marquis. Now he bears the title of Viscount. The girl could not believe it. It seemed impossible for her. After that, she thought about why the Emperor needed this, and what these people could do that, for which he decided to expel them. There was another moment that seemed strange to her. Why did that girl tell her this information? But she tried to convince her that she was not going to do any harm. She just decided that this would be useful information, and Lady Blank should know her. Because they are in the same position, she wanted to help so there are no hidden meanings, except that the phrase, the same position, sounded ambiguous. Does this girl really hope that she is also able to win back power, and perhaps therefore helps and tells this information to Lady Blank? After the conversation, they decided to go about their business, because after this there was something to think about and draw conclusions. And yet Lady Blank was sure this strange girl was up to something, and at the same time she was trying to hide it very well. When suddenly, when she was already leaving, she heard her name. They were girls who constantly discussed and criticized her for any reason. Lady Blank asked them why they called her and what happened. After all, they never talked and secretly did not like each other. At some point Survived very sharply began to apologize and ask for forgiveness because they were just jealous and insulted. For this they were very ashamed. At least they said so. But it's not clear whether it was sincere or not. Perhaps someone asked them to apologize, or they will have some benefit from this, and they say this is not sincere. In particular, their words, of course, there were doubts. In addition, they very suddenly began to ask for forgiveness at the same time. And it can't be just like that, because I felt ashamed of my behavior at more than one moment. After that, they began to say that it is difficult for them to imagine how hard it was for Lady Blank to listen to everything they said, and they are very ashamed that they allowed themselves to treat her like that. Only now she perfectly understood that now they are all trying to apologize for a reason. There is definitely some kind of catch here, because the girl knew perfectly well what they were talking about behind her back, and they are not able to feel shame or sincerely apologize. If not for End, she would have no support at all, and a person to whom she could tell everything and share her feelings just because of these crazy girls. And at that moment, she realized that she was very grateful to her friend, and for the fact that she was always with her, and she was ready to listen and support at any moment, except she couldn't understand why they were all paying so much more attention now than they used to, and what made them so abruptly start apologizing and trying to fix everything they did wrong to Lady Blank. Town in the east of the Empire of Marseille. Since then, Marcel has had a lot of problems after talking with the operator. He decided to come to someone and find out something, because he cannot sit still for a long time, and sooner or later, he will have to decide something about it. He came to some guy. Apparently he should know something that will help Marcel. At least he really hoped for it, because he had no other option. He looked very sad, and it was clear how worried he was about something. And this is not surprising, because the Emperor finally put him in his place. After all, it can't go on like this anymore. Marcel had too high an opinion of himself, and sometimes even put himself higher than the Emperor. So it's time to pay for his actions. Only hope. But someone's help was probably in vain, because no one can restore his reputation with the Emperor. It turns out that Marcel came in order to find someone, asked if this person was here, and begged to meet him. But that guy said that person is not here, and if Marcel has some business with him, he can easily convey when they see him. But for now, it is impossible. Since the right person was not there, it makes no sense to linger and distract the guy. Since it was already late at night, and everyone wanted to relax, and not solve someone's problems late at night. After talking with Marcel, that guy went somewhere. Probably someone was waiting for him not far from home. After that, that guy met someone, and that person did not expect to see him here. They started talking about that someone heard what he was talking about. Only what they were talking about specifically was immediately clear. But the bottom line was that the emperor personally took power away from the marquis, and they definitely didn't expect this. Only there was a problem what to do with the prison now. But still they decided to leave him, since he is of no value, and they don't need extra trouble. Some of them asked what the name of that girl was. This guy said her name was Sophia de Blanc, but it looks like the person the guy was talking to didn't like her and had something against her. And apparently they are up to something, because they didn't just discuss this topic late at night on the street, where there is no one around, and no one will hear anything. Meanwhile, Sophia de Blanc, while she was with someone and talking about something, could not stop thinking about how she could quickly discuss everything with the emperor. After all, this did not give her peace of mind. Despite the fact that it was very important to talk to him, and this should not be postponed, she was very afraid, because she did not know how he would react to all her questions and what she would say to him. This is all because he usually answers very rudely to questions that he does not like, or if he does not want to talk about it. Therefore, usually everyone is very afraid to approach him and talk about something, for fear that he might yell or kick him out. The fact that he treats her better than usual with other people and girls, this understanding gave her a little confidence that everything would go well. And yet she made up her mind, introduced herself, and knocked on his door. After that she said that she would come in now. He was resting at that time and sitting reading a book. It seems that he was quite calm, and it was very good, because it is better not to catch his eye when he is in a bad mood. Usually each of their conversations is special and carries some consequences that could not be expected at the beginning of the conversation. Sophia looked at the emperor with surprise, because he was quite calm, at that moment when she was afraid that danger awaited her at every step, and someone constantly wanted to harm her. At this moment he asks, maybe he should lie down on the bed. And this question was strange, and the girl did not understand why he was asking this. And with this question he immediately shocked her. After that, he noticed that the girl was worried and wanted to say something. So he asked why she was looking at him like that. And she replied that she would like to ask something. Said she heard him send one of the court ladies home, and asked why he did that. But he asked his own question on this, and asked why she was asking about it, and why she was interested in it. Sophia said that she was just worried because strange rumors began to spread. The emperor said that she seemed to be glad that there was a business relationship between them, since when all sorts of gossip bothered her. Of course she couldn't answer what she really thought, because she is very worried that they want to harm her, no matter how hard she tries to avoid it. For some reason, she can't stay safe and calm. To this he asked, is he really so disgusting to her that she does not want to hear anything about him? Oddly enough, this question was also incomprehensible to Sophia. After all, it turns out that it is she who is disgusting to him, and not he to her, and in general she is still afraid of him, and to say such a thing was very strange on his part. After that, she said that if the aristocrats did not love her and did not want to harm her, she would be in danger, so she did not want to die. At this time, the emperor looked like a person who does not care at all. She is everything that she tries to tell him. He then says that until she cures his insomnia, he will not let anything happen to her, and promise that she will be safe no matter what happens. She understood this so that he would protect her and save her from anyone. Of course, it's nice to hear this from the emperor, since his words were convincing, but still, this is not a 100% guarantee that from now on she will be safe and nothing will threaten her. And finally she heard normal words from him. After they talked, the emperor said that if that was all, you should quickly make sure that he fell asleep, and ordered this to be done immediately. At that moment, he noticed that she was standing still and doing nothing, so he asked what was the matter and why she did not fulfill her duties after he asked for it. And of course, after such words, she immediately said that she would immediately get down to business, and apologized, because it was not supposed to argue with him and prove something, and it's better not to. The next morning, the emperor slept well and felt great. He didn't even have a headache, and was surprisingly in a good mood. As soon as he woke up, he realized that it was all thanks to Sophia, of course, and because of the quality sleep. But in the morning, he increasingly feels well and does not complain of a headache. This means that everything done by Sophia was not in vain, and her help is really useful for him. Thanks to this, he became much kinder than he was before, and everyone notices this very well. In the meantime, go to his movie to ask how well he slept, because this is important not only for the emperor himself, but also important for all those around him who live and communicate with him. He replied that he would do it, although at that moment he thought about it, and realized that he didn't answer the way he should have. It was quite rude, and he looked ungrateful at that moment in front of Sophia, because thanks to her he now feels good. At this point he felt a little rude, and realized that he should have answered differently. Noon of the same day. While the emperor was studying the papers, one thought did not leave him, and he thought about this at a time when he was busy with other important matters, and could not concentrate on one thing, because some strange movement of magic was felt, and he felt it very well, because the palace and everything around it was completely under the influence of magic, therefore distant landscapes that he saw only mirage. And from this movement, the view outside the window can change, and it was impossible to believe what seemed at first glance, because around you it was deceptive, and you had to wait out this moment. But for some reason he constantly saw her image before his eyes. She seemed to fill all his thoughts, and he could not think of anything else but her. The emperor began to assume that perhaps Sophia is still worried and in fear, because of what she told him yesterday, and probably still, it worries her. But he decided that for now, it's not worth thinking about it, since there are many other things besides this that need to be urgently done, and then decide something with Sophia, because she said that between them is only a business relationship, and despite the fact that they were together at night, it is better not to pay attention to it and just forget about it. He didn't understand. Does it really mean nothing to her, or is she just trying to act like she doesn't care? Although maybe she does this to hide her feelings and not show anyone what she really feels. Because of these thoughts, he can't get himself together and deal with one first, and then try to solve the problem with Sophia. But in order to help her, he needs to finish important things, and because of these thoughts, he can't get started. And you will have to choose what is more important to him, and put something in priority. Because otherwise, it is impossible to focus on one thing. And if you grab onto two things at the same time, you will not be able to cope with anything qualitatively. Therefore, in order to distract himself and let go of these thoughts, he decided to take a little break and get some fresh air. For this, he chose an active pastime. Because if you rest and do nothing, these thoughts will still get into your head, and so he will be focused, and everything in his attention will be in only one thing. And in this way, he will forget about everything else, and at the same time get a good workout. It seems that this is a really good way to take your mind off all the problems, and clear your thoughts a little, at least for a short time. When he was exercising, he noticed that Sophia was standing next to him and talking to someone, so he could not stop thinking about her even during training, since she herself appeared in front of him, and he could not ignore it no matter how hard he tried. When Sophia left the girls, they began to discuss her, and they said how beautiful she was. They said that now it's clear why the emperor chose her. After all, before he could not find anyone, not because he hated women, but because that I just couldn't find the right one. Sophia heard this and did not understand where they get this from. After all, they don't know anything and they can't discuss it like that. Besides, it's absolutely none of their business. Then they decided that this time it was necessary to choose the right side, in order for there to be at least some benefit in this. Only what it could mean, and what they are talking about will become clear a little later. Even though they didn't say anything bad about her, the fact that they dared to discuss their private life with the emperor didn't please the girl, because she doesn't like it when someone pry into someone else's life and discuss it, nothing knowing what's really going on. So she decided to just mind her own business and go looking for. She didn't have to go anywhere far, and it looks like she found what she was looking for. And it was a garden with flowers, and if you go there you can enjoy the wonderful aroma that reigns around. It was really incredibly beautiful there, and you didn't want to leave there. But that's what Sophia came here for, and what was she looking for here? 'Cause there's no one here. The fact is that the girl was surprised. Why is there no such thing as aromatherapy in the palace, and no one has heard about it, and does not know what it is? After all, the smell of lilac helps with insomnia, and this is a very useful flower. It has not only a chic aroma and appearance, but also has useful properties. At this moment someone approaches her, but she did not know who it was. It turned out that this was the person who was responsible for escorting her. Sophia began to gradually remember who he was, because she remembered how he was next to her when she examined everything here, and got used to the palace for a very long time. Now it became clear to her who it was. Only for what he came she did not know, since he did not say anything, but simply approached and did not say anything more. The emperor didn't like this situation very much, and it looked like he was very jealous of Sophia for this guy. He just didn't show that he didn't like it, although in fact he was very angry at this, and did not understand what she was doing with this guy and why they were talking at all. And he was especially annoyed that she smiled when she talked to him. Despite the fact that at that moment the emperor was being attacked, he continued to watch Sophia and follow her every move, because I wanted to know everything she did while she was around that guy, and didn't want to miss anything. Due to the fact that he was very angry, he directed all these emotions to the opponent. It was the only chance to direct his bad emotions somewhere, because in such an environment it was organic and did not seem something strange, so it was impossible to assume that he behaved so aggressively because of the girl. And he took advantage of this moment, and at that time he thought only about her, although in reality nothing of the kind happened, and she owes him nothing. At the moment when the emperor was very angry, his opponent began to be more and more afraid, because in this state he was capable of much, and would easily have won because of the bad emotions that gave energy during the competition. That opponent barely had time to run away from him and somehow escape, because he understood that now the emperor was taking revenge on him and splashing out all bad emotions. Therefore, you need to be careful and think about your safety, because at that moment the emperor was as evil as ever and was capable of absolutely anything. After that, he said that he had had enough today, and he would go about his business. But the only thing he thought about was her, and what she did he really wanted to know. And also why that knight was with her. He really pissed him off at that moment. So the emperor even forgot about other things and was only focused on the girl, and he didn't think about anything else. Usually at this time he had a meal, but today he had no appetite. So he went straight to his room, when suddenly, oddly enough, the knight who had just stood and talked with Sophia approached him. The emperor immediately recognized his voice, and could not confuse it with anyone else. He even thought about dealing with it, but he didn't want to rush and make mistakes. Except that the emperor did not even guess that this knight would be the one who should not be angry at all, and he did not talk about anything personal with the girl, as it seemed to the emperor initially. He asks, "How can he help, and why did he come? Did he really want to say something important?" The knight said that he had a letter that Sophia asked him to convey. So he came, because he did not want to distract him when the emperor was already resting, and he would not be up to it. He certainly did not expect this, and thought that now there would be a very bad and emotional conversation, because he was ready to start a conflict. The emperor began to look at what was written in that letter, and at that moment the knight asked permission to leave, and not to distract with his presence. And Mr. Carl was in anticipation, and he wanted to know as soon as possible what was written in this letter. He did not even know what Sophia could write to him. So I printed it out very quickly, sat comfortably on my sofa, and proceeded to study everything that was written there. It turns out that the following was written there. Since the emperor was busy, Sophia decided to write a letter. Due to the fact that he looked tired, she decided to come a little earlier than usual, and will wait for him in the room. And just below wrote on a piece of paper that this letter is from Sophia. Yes, blank. And after that, the emperor understood that the girl met with that knight in order to convey this letter to him with his help. So he shouldn't have been so nervous when he sees them together. It only means that the emperor was apparently jealous of the girl. And since it's already very late, most likely the girl is already in his room and has been waiting for him for a long time. So he decided to go there as soon as possible so as not to keep her waiting long. After that, he understood and realized that it really bothers him when she communicates with someone, especially if it's some guy. And it's very hard for him to accept the fact that she can communicate with some guys besides him. On the same day in the evening, the girl took a bouquet of lilacs and put the flowers in a vase in the emperor's room, as this should help him finally recover from insomnia. When everything was ready, the emperor finally came, and immediately saw this beauty in his room. because he never had such a thing. But soon he will understand that these flowers are not just for decorating a room. They are really useful and can help him with his problem, and the treatment will be much faster and more pleasant, so he should be grateful that Sophia is worried about doing as much as possible useful for his recovery. The smell from these flowers spread throughout the room, and when they enter it, they immediately feel this pleasant aroma, although it might be strange for someone to see flowers in the emperor's room. The main thing is that they stand here for a reason, and these are not just flowers that create a pleasant atmosphere in the room and spread pleasant aromas. At that moment the emperor understands that Sophia took up this issue, and all this time she was not just resting, she was making sure that the emperor quickly got better. And of course he appreciated it very much. After all, he himself would never have guessed that lilac is something that could be useful for him. Meanwhile, the emperor had an important meeting, and they were discussing very important issues that needed to be urgently resolved. When they discussed the most important things, someone asked if the emperor was going to appoint a new ambassador, because it is very important for the empire to keep in touch with neighboring countries. After that, someone asked if he was going to make the girl he likes his concubine, because there are a lot of rumors about it, and everyone is talking about it. Also, everyone thought that the emperor would never make this girl from the village empress, because she was not worthy of it. And everyone told him that this should not happen in any way, and he better think about it. Only it looks like they didn't think about the fact that the emperor doesn't care about their advice and their opinion on this matter. So he told them that he would not give them now the answer they want to hear. And since they will see each other at the next meeting, then they can talk about everything, and now is not the best time for this. And besides, he does not have to listen to someone who advises him what to do when it comes to his personal life. After talking with Sophia, he constantly thought about how he could protect her. Because if she already told him about it, then this is really important, and a serious question for her. In addition, he perfectly understands that she thinks not only about herself, as she tries to stay away from him so that there are no different rumors about them, so as not to cause discomfort to the emperor. And since she can't do anything without his help, he must help her, because her safety depends only on him. And if it's left like this, not only he, but she will be safe. So we need to deal with this matter as soon as possible. It is a pity that the books do not explain how to act. In such situations, you have to cope with everything yourself and figure out how to act in this or that situation. The only things he liked to read were books that had something to do with magic. He was not interested in anything else. This topic inspired and liked him very much. At some point he realizes that there is no more time to delay and put off things for later. Since he is the emperor, it was very easy for him to solve any problem for Sophia, so he decided that it was time to act. He is the only one who can help her deal with this, because Sophia has no one else to rely on, and if he does not, it will be very ugly towards her, because he is her only chance. At this moment, his assistant comes to him. Since they have not seen each other for a long time, there must have been new things that cannot be put off. But this time the emperor himself called him, since he trusted all his affairs only to him, and hoped for his advice. When the assistant just entered, the emperor ordered to immediately go somewhere. It was some shop with dresses and jewelry, which they both did not really want to go. But since there is no other option, they have to do it. Assistant thought about what is possible for the emperor. It gives pleasure to torment him, and go to these shops together. The emperor asked the consultant to do something as quickly as possible. For sure he gave something that needs to be sewn in or fixed. He was told that he should not worry, and they will do everything as quickly as possible. At that time, the assistant wanted very much to get out of there and quickly return back and ask the emperor about this. But he replied that he had not finished yet, and they would have to stay here for a while. Then gave the assistant some kind of diamond and told him to use it to create an artifact for self-defense. Thanks to this, it will turn out to be very powerful. Besides, it needs to be done before tomorrow. Only the assistant did not immediately understand that this was not a joke, and the emperor quite seriously said this. After all, it was a very short time for what business, and it is unlikely that anyone will be able to cope with this. The emperor began to say that the best specialist in this matter would need more time for such a thing. But the assistant was sure that the emperor was saying this on purpose, so that he would quickly agree. And after that, they have already decided to go home, since all the work has already been done, and you can leave from there. At that time, Sophia was still sleeping, and did not even know what was waiting for her very soon, and did not suspect that she was waiting for a small prize from the emperor himself, who took care of it, and went to the store in advance in order to buy everything before she woke up. And in the meantime, she slept very well and felt good. As usual, after she woke up, she immediately remembered to do business because she had been sleeping for so long. It was necessary to pack up very quickly and wake the emperor, because otherwise he could sleep for a very long time. Only she did not know that he had not slept for a long time, and even returned from the store before she woke up. And at some point you notice that there is a present on the table, and she did not know who gave it. So she decided to immediately open it to quickly see what was inside. She did not even expect what she would see inside, and even more so that it was a gift from the emperor. Inside there was a beautiful dress, and a note in which it was written that she should put on this dress and go to the great hall of the palace. And only then did she realize who this gift was from. After that, she thought it would be cool to shoot some kind of video in this dress, if everything was the same as before, and she would be at home. Videos in this outfit would definitely get a lot of views because she liked it very much, and she wanted to wear it as soon as possible. Sophia already wore a dress, and in it she felt so chic that she was 100% sure of herself, because she had never felt such a beautiful girl in such chic clothes. Only it took a long time to figure out how to put it on, because she had never worn this before and did not know how to do it. Because of this, the girl was already late for the event, and she thought that the emperor would probably say something about her being late. When she was already approaching, she heard that someone inside was already talking about something, and realized that everyone had long begun to discuss something. She still didn't know what was going on there, but she guessed that she was definitely late, because a lot of time had passed while she was putting on the dress. Everything was so... Everyone who was inside had already begun to discuss important topics, and there were no misunderstandings. Although this is not surprising, this is almost always the case. The emperor says that he will leave the place of the ambassador empty for now and will deal with this later. And if a delegation arrives from other countries, they can ask for an audience, so nothing bad will happen. But his assistants immediately began to condemn such a decision and asked again to think over it well so as not to make many mistakes, because this is a very important moment, and this should not be delayed for a long time. The emperor immediately noticed that all these people seem to have forgotten who decides here and who has the right to do it. After all, they have the right only to suggest and not to do, as they constantly doubt the decisions of the emperor and say whether he does it right or not. And since this should not be, the emperor this time decided to remind everyone of his place. He said that he noticed a long time ago how everyone forgot who he was, so he reminded that he is the emperor of Marseille, and only he can make any decisions, and no one has the right to doubt them or advise to think about their correctness. At that moment, Sophia nevertheless decided to come to them. Due to the fact that she was late, she was afraid to attract attention to herself and come closer to them. Meanwhile, the emperor does not yet notice that she is already here. He was busy telling his subordinates who has what place, and who has the right to decide something and who does not. After he explained everything to everyone, decided to proceed with the second decree. One of them noticed that Sophia had already arrived, and told her to come in quickly so as not to miss anything, because now many important matters are being discussed in which it is important to take part. Since she had never attended such events before, she was very worried and afraid that she would be told something for being late, and she would feel superfluous. But there was no longer a choice, and it was necessary to come in. Only now, why did the emperor invite Sophia to this meeting, and at the same time in such a chic way? Does he really want to do something or say something about this girl? She tried her best to go to the emperor as confidently as possible, and not to give saw that she was very afraid of all this, and not to pay attention to the people around. Everyone immediately started discussing her clothes, and talking about why the emperor called her here. But she hoped that he did it, not to shame her in front of these people. She has already approached him, and is attentively waiting for at least some word from him, because she still did not understand why she was invited and what she needs to do. At this moment, that man starts to take out some document and announce the news so that everyone who was at the event can hear it, and begins to read. The emperor appointed Sophia as the healer of his insomnia, and from now on she is a very important and respected person in the empire. In addition, for all her efforts and merits regarding the treatment of the emperor, she will be awarded the title of a special knight. These words shocked her very much. She didn't understand what other knight and what to reward her for. She definitely couldn't imagine how she came here. The maximum she hoped was that she would just sit next to them and be present at the decision-important issues. All these assistants immediately began to discuss this, because they had never heard that such a title existed before. And they clearly didn't like it all, and they were against. At that moment she wondered if after that she would become a real aristocrat. The most important moment has just come, and the dress is not yet the main gift from the emperor. He has prepared something more amazing. Sophia should definitely appreciate this act. He took out the jewelry that he bought when she was still sleeping and had no idea where he was at that time. And when he took it out, put it on the girl. Said that from now on, no one would dare to insult her anymore. And if he dared to do this, he would be very severely punished and regret it forever. She could not believe that this was happening to her now, because it looks like some kind of dream and something unreal, because she could not even dream of such a thing. After that, he looked at her ears and noticed that there was something wrong. Something confused him. It turns out that she does not have pierced ears, and because of this, Sophia does not wear any earrings and jewelry. But she said that because she was a child from a poor family, and because of this, she was not able to buy and wear earrings. So she still does not have anything like that. The emperor apologized for this question, and said that it should be corrected, because he thinks that it would be very beautiful for her to wear jewelry and have a small collection. Sophia was immediately surprised that he was apologizing for something, because she thought he was allergic to this word. Also, the emperor said that he really hopes that from now on she will stop worrying about everything and become more confident in herself, because she is very beautiful and deserves everything that she has. Then he turned to all those present in the hall, and said that from now on she was not a court lady, but his knight, who was officially titled by the emperor himself. And from now on, everyone who dares to spread rumors about him and her will be punished to the fullest extent of the law, and cannot even doubt it. In the hall at one moment there was complete silence. No one even looked in the direction of the emperor and Sophia, because they had never heard anything like that addressed to them, and they were surprised by the severity of the emperor. Sophia was pleasantly surprised by such an act, because from now on she is no longer just an ordinary girl. She has her own privileges, and is a real honored knight. After that, the man was supposed to take Sophia somewhere, but where, he did not tell her, and simply silently led her to her destination. When she asked where they were going, at most he said that she would soon find out herself. It was impossible to get at least some information from him in general. As always, it turns out that the man took her to a very beautiful room. She was all incredibly bright and beautiful, and ideally suited for a girl like Sophia. Only so far she did not know what this place was, and why she was brought here. At this moment, one very familiar person for her approaches them, who he will be from now on. Soon she will know about it. For now, he just said hello, and addressed her as a healer, because now she is officially a respected person in the palace. Sophia remembers this guy very well because just recently she talked to him. The fact is that according to the order of the emperor, now he will accompany Sophia in everything and will be there when needed. Of course, she did not expect that everything was prepared in advance, and now a lot of people are doing this. After that, she was told that this room in which she will now live, and can now be located here and enjoy the conditions and comfort. At that moment, she hoped that everything that was happening was not a dream, and that it really was all at her disposal now. The man says that she needs to accept it all and be grateful, because the emperor worked on it for a very long time and planned, so hope that she liked everything, and she will happily use it all. Since Sophia is very reserved and not used to such gifts, only one thing was important for her, so that everything would not be taken away from her, and she could enjoy a new life as long as possible, because she could not even dream of such a thing and was very thank you all. After that I realized that his words were coming out, that she should not worry now, and that as long as there is an agreement between them, she will be safe. And also that he does not intend to let her go until she cures her insomnia. Meant that he said it for a reason, and was ready to ensure a comfortable stay during the contract. despite the fact that she could only enjoy a new life and all this comfort. She thought a lot that maybe there is some kind of catch in this, and you should not believe everything and relax. Meanwhile, at the Empire's best magic academy, École de Mag, early in the morning they handed out breaking news releases in newspapers, in which there was just the news about what had happened. One girl walked around the territory of the academy, and so far could not suspect that she would soon find out something interesting. At some point, a friend ran up to her because he could not find her in any way. But she didn't seem to be happy with him at all, and he asked in response how she could talk to her friend like that. But he was looking for her for a reason. He wanted to show her something very important that she might be interested in. He showed her a newspaper and asked to see what they wrote there. She immediately began to read, because she was wondering what was so special about it. And at that moment she reads the news that a new healer of the Emperor's insomnia has appeared. Her name is Sophia de Blanc, and she is also the sister of the most famous student of the École de Mag school. That girl's friend said it looks like it's her sister and asked how she was with the news. The girl just thanked, and said that she needed to go somewhere urgently. And after that she ran somewhere. Apparently she was very interested in what she learned from the newspaper, but it's not clear whether she was happy about it or not. The next morning Sophia woke up very early, as always at 5 o'clock in the morning. It is amazing that she gets enough sleep and gets up herself at such a time. She has already developed a sleep pattern, and without an alarm clock, she easily gets up at the same time every day. And also she had obligations every day at 7 o'clock in the morning to come to the Emperor and wake him up. Despite the fact that at the beginning she came and he always slept at this time, now he is used to waking up by himself, and he sleeps perfectly by this time. After all, before when she came to him, he had to wake him up for a very long time, and he got up very hard. But over time, he developed a habit, and it became easier for him to wake up on time. And since now he himself can wake up at the right time, Sophia suggests not to come to him in the morning anymore, since this may not be necessary now. But for some reason he misunderstood it, and said that as soon as she was appointed a healer, she begins to be lazy. The girl immediately replied that he misunderstood. And it was a kind of compliment, since he now manages to get up early on his own without her help. Maybe he said it because he didn't want to lose her presence in the morning, and he liked it. That's why he reacted like that, and made it clear that this should not be done. Then said that this clothes suits her very well and she can wear them more often. Besides, it is unusual to see her in such a chic look in the morning. The Emperor said that it was not surprising because he chose the dress, and of course it would suit any girl, and even her, although it sounded a little ambiguous and insulting. Sophia replied that she wore this dress, not because it suits her, but so that others would not look down on her as usual. And in this way she could show that she was confident in herself, and not worth it, treat like a normal girl. For some reason the Emperor began to ask why she began to answer every word so boldly. Has she lost her fear, and is not afraid of what he can do to her? To which she replied, what happens after that, when she is gone? He will not be able to sleep anymore. Therefore he will not allow such. And he thought, since when did she become so scary, and is not afraid of absolutely anything? This is all because she knows perfectly well that the Emperor could not cope without her, and will not be able to fight insomnia. At this moment the girl decided to ask something. Is he going to leave the two court ladies in the palace or not? But he did not understand why she was interested in this, and why she needed to know such information. Sophia said that he still doesn't spend time with them, and why does he need them then? And if he doesn't do this because of her, then she doesn't forbid him anything. The Emperor replied that it was not because of her. He just did not want to be with them. I asked why then she is now in this place next to him, and all because he is much more comfortable and calmer with her. In addition, he is more confident in Sophia than in someone else. The girl did not expect to hear this, because the Emperor very often hides his real thoughts and opinions about someone, and now he directly told her that he was comfortable next to her. But she seems to have misunderstood this, and the Emperor explained that he did not mean that he saw her as his love. It meant that she was a comfortable person, and nothing more. Only for some reason it made her happy. And the Emperor did not understand this, because he said that he did not see her as his girlfriend, and she was delighted with this. For him it was surprising, because he thought that she would react the opposite, and it would upset her. After that, Sophia offered to send these girls home, because it turns out that he does not need them at all if he has her. Sophia. The emperor replied that apparently she was completely insolent and had the right to tell him that he should let his court ladies go and decide something for him. But she didn't mean that at all, but that they would be grateful, like her, for his good deed. Each of her words surprised him very much, because every time she said something strange to him, perhaps it was because Sophia knew that the emperor would never raise his voice at her, and would always listen, even if he pretended to be very angry for her insolence. After that he asked if she was his man, and would always be by his side no matter what. Sophia replied that, of course it is, and he can never doubt it. She will always be by his side, because she is his healer, and will be by his side, and support him, even if he is wrong. And he said he'd think about it a little later. On the same day at night, the girl as usual came to help the emperor fall asleep, and he was waiting for her. Sophia brought with her a book that she would read, and luckily he wasn't evil, probably due to the fact that he already imagined how good it turned out to sleep that night. But for some reason he somehow looked at her suspiciously and thought about something. The girl notices this and does not understand what is happening because he does not say anything. She just sits next to him and waits for him to say something to her. At this time there was a slight, awkward pause, and Sophia simply decided to look away and wait for something, some action from him, in order not to anger him once again, and not to do something wrong, because it's better not to take risks before going to bed and keep calm so that he feels good in the morning, and doesn't get angry at anyone. At some point, she realizes that it is useless to wait for something, and finally decided to get down to business, because he was kind of silent, and there was no point in sitting waiting for a miracle. Therefore decided to start and get down to business, because the sooner he falls asleep, the sooner she can go about her business and rest in her room. After that he starts to read. This tale was about a boy who ran somewhere, and he was also very handsome, with sparkling eyes, because he was very happy, and his life was very busy, so he looked very joyful. Then he went to a huge garden with flowers, and enjoyed this beauty all day long until night fell, when suddenly the girl begins to notice that something strange begins to happen to her, and does not understand what is the matter, because on the same day the same thing happened when she got here for the first time. The same garden and the same children, and the same fairy tale. Everything was very strange, and she did not understand what was happening. Oddly enough, Sophia's eyes began to close, and she began to lose control of herself and gradually fall asleep. She perfectly understood this, but could not do anything about it. Everything happened too fast, and she had no time to control anything. And literally a few minutes later she fell asleep, and at some point the emperor wakes up and notices that Sophia is lying next to him. He does not understand why this happened. Is she already completely insolent and decided to sleep with him? After all, this had not happened for a very long time, and he did not understand how he should react to this, and whether it was worth waking her up to find out this situation. His reaction was mixed. Of course he was surprised, but not angry at this, just thinking about why this happened. She herself wanted it that way, or it happened by accident. That's what he wanted to know. After all, Sophia does not have insomnia, and could she not control herself and fell asleep right here? So he just decided to sleep on. When she wakes up, she will immediately go to your room. But for a while he did not succeed, and he remembered her words that she had spoken to him recently, about the fact that she is on his side and will never leave him, because she is his healer, and she will always be glad to help with something if it is in her power. After that he thought maybe it was too hard for her to help him fall asleep, and because of this she fell asleep from fatigue, because this could also be. Then he began to examine her, and noticed that she was quite thin, and he became interested in she was always like this or not, because he did not notice if she was eating normally or not. At some point he caught himself thinking that for some reason he was looking at her and thinking about how she looks, and instead of resting and sleeping at such a late hour. For a long time he couldn't figure out what to do, and he didn't even manage to fall asleep. Maybe it was just uncomfortable for him to be in the same room with her while she was sleeping, because he was used to sleeping on his own. So I started thinking about where to move her, or even maybe take her to her room. He had a lot of ideas, only he didn't want to wake her up while he was moving her somewhere else. He looked at her for a long time, and came up with a plan to move her somewhere far away from his bed, because he still cannot accept this fact that someone can be near him, and even more so, a girl. Since he really wanted to sleep and he had to do something, he decided not to waste time and pick it up. But it was not as easy as he imagined. Although she did not weigh that much, it was difficult to lift her. But he decided that he had to do it. Otherwise, he would not be able to sleep properly, and in the morning he would be in a bad mood. He saw how she sleeps well, and he really didn't want to make her wake up, so everything had to be done very carefully. At first he had the idea to move it to the sofa that was nearby in his room, but it was very far away, so he didn't know if he could hold her and carefully transfer her there so that she wouldn't wake up and feel nothing. Don't leave her on the bed, he thought. When he nevertheless picked her up, it was an unusual feeling for him, because he had never been so close to her when she did not notice it and was sleeping. Then he could not stand it and put it back. Then he thought that it would be better to inform him on the sofa, but due to the fact that he could not lift it, he had to leave it on the bed. Then he noticed that the girl was still in that dress in which she went all day, and she probably felt uncomfortable in it. Therefore, in order to have a good rest and be comfortable, he thought it would be nice to change clothes before going to bed. But she did not have time to do this, so she lies in him. He saw how uncomfortable this dress could be, and she probably didn't want to tell him how uncomfortable it was to walk around in it all day. And since the emperor loves comfortable clothes, he did not understand how one could suffer so much in such a heavy and uncomfortable dress. But when he chose it, he did not think about it at all, and turned his attention only to whether it was beautiful or not. And to make her a little more comfortable, he decided to make the dress not press so hard on her. He understood that he had been thinking for a long time about what was better to do, and nothing was happening. He still hadn't moved her to the sofa, and really regretted that I didn't do it the first time, because I had to try and finally sleep. The next morning came, and Sophia still does not even suspect what awaits her, because she took a few hours of sleep and fell asleep not on her bed. When she already wakes up, notices that something is wrong, and understands that she is not in her room, but in the emperor's room, and is even afraid to imagine what he might say when he sees her, because usually he does not forgive such situations to anyone, and even more so when it comes to his sleep. She has a few minutes to concentrate and understand what happened, because she did not even notice how quickly she fell asleep yesterday, and did not control it at all. Therefore, she will have to answer for this, and explain how this could happen. Initially, he didn't even have any options how to explain this, because in any case, no words will help if the emperor is not in the mood, and he can get angry for any word that he doesn't like. This situation happened not for the first time. Once upon a time she fell asleep next to him in the same way, and remembers how he reacts to this. So she was afraid that this time there would be the same situation, and he would be very angry about it. When she was already getting up in bed, she was afraid to look into his eyes because she had not yet come up with an answer to the questions that he would ask, and it seemed that there was no point in it. After that, she went up to him and saw that he was sleeping on some small sofa instead of enjoying sleep in his big, comfortable bed, and immediately apologized for what happened and said that she had no control over how it happened. Of course, he started to say that it was uncomfortable for him to sleep, and he did not expect that this would happen a second time after so much time and experience that she received over so much time and learned what is possible and what is not. But this time he just waited for what Sophia would tell him. He didn't even think of shouting at her somehow and starting a conflict first. It was important for him to hear her opinion and whether she considers this situation normal or not. She immediately began to say that this would not happen again, and she was very ashamed that this happened because she did not do it on purpose. She would never have allowed this in her mind. Therefore, she said that she was very sorry that she forced the emperor to sleep on that small, uncomfortable couch, and thanked that he didn't wake her up and allowed her to sleep comfortably instead of waking her up and yelling at her for such a situation. After that, she said it would probably go better, because she probably already spoiled his mood. But he said that so far he hadn't let her go, and was not going to forgive such a thing so easily, therefore ordered to repay what happened, so that she understands that this should not happen again. He ordered to go to the kitchen and bring him breakfast to the room, and pick up all the most delicious, what he likes to eat for breakfast. Since there was a lot of food, and the choice was huge, This task was easy enough to complete because the chefs probably cook what the emperor definitely loves, because they learned his food preferences over so many years. And it was almost impossible to make a mistake with the choice of food. Sophia brought him breakfast with a displeased face because she was angry about what happened and felt guilty towards him. But for some reason, when food was already in the room, the emperor said that she should try it first. Sophia asks why, after what happened, he still decided to feed her and treat her to his breakfast. But he came up with some kind of excuse, and said that he was doing this so that she would find the strength in herself to go to her room in the evening and sleep there. Besides, he said that she was very thin, and it would not hurt her to eat more, and advised to increase her portions several times, to which the girl replied that she considers her physique to be absolutely normal. Of course, she didn't refuse such a chic breakfast and enjoy absolutely every dish, because usually for the emperor to cook food is much tastier and more varied than for ordinary people. Unlike, for example, the food that is prepared for servants. Due to the fact that everything was insanely delicious, she tried to eat everything as quickly as possible and have time to taste everything she took. The emperor advised her to eat slowly because no one would take anything away, and she could enjoy her breakfast in peace. When he watched Sophia enjoy her meal, he smiled and tried to hide his smile. The girl noticed this, and realized that she was seeing this for the first time. In addition, he is very handsome when he smiles. It was unusual to see him with such emotions because he usually hides them, does not show them to anyone. He also liked to watch her eat because he hadn't noticed it before. He saw that she looked like a baby bird in a nest, which very funny eats food that is about to be taken by other birds. The next day came, and someone came to the emperor's office on business. That man said that they examined everything. Only the eastern lands, the capital, and the territories around it remained. And the emperor suggested where you can find something, because there must be something interesting there, and advised to think carefully before taking such a risk. But the man convinced that he was interested in this, and he was ready to do it. And the emperor agreed, because he saw that the man was confident in his actions and was not going to retreat. That man saw that the emperor was worried about him, and suggested that if so, he could give him a day off today or tomorrow, ahaha. And since that very day came, he ordered him to leave. But what a day it was. Tomorrow is the day when the daughter of the Marquis will not be. Suddenly a man notices that the emperor has something on his leg, and it was very noticeable. He did not expect to see a butterfly but his shoes, and I do not understand why she stopped there and sits. And all because they were the remnants of magic, and there is nothing surprising in this. The image of the butterfly that the man saw is just the aftermath of it. And maybe it was done by someone who had more powerful magic than the man who does it, but does not have that much power. And when he realizes that there is someone stronger than him, it upsets him a lot, and he loses his mood. Therefore, he has one more thing to do, because he cannot tolerate those who can do more than he. The next day, the girl noticed that the flowers that the emperor had in the room had already withered, so they had to be thrown away, and also hoped that he liked them. And it was much more pleasant for him to be in his room when there was such a pleasant aroma of lilac around. When the emperor woke up, he noticed that he stopped feeling the scent of flowers. He disappeared somewhere, and it was immediately noticeable, because he was already used to it. Sophia replied that the lilac was already all wilted and she threw it away, because these flowers created an ugly look, so it was better to remove them. And when I realized that this was important for the emperor, and he noticed it, she offered to bring new ones. They would smell even stronger, and look a little better than those that were. But he said that it was not necessary, although it was strange because he liked them. Maybe he just didn't want Sophia to think that he liked the flowers in the room. And since he was a man, he didn't want to admit it. But she knew for sure that he was telling a lie, so she would have to take care of it somehow and put new flowers in the vase. She has already been living with him for 3 months. And does the emperor really think that she did not recognize him during this time? She already knew his every look by heart, and she understood what it meant, despite the fact that he says, when she was going about her business, she met a man along the way. He had pink hair, and the girl accidentally confused this man with that pink-haired grandpa who does magic. And due to the fact that she knew who was really standing in front of her, she turned to this person. Grandpa. But then she noticed that it was some kind of woman and she became very embarrassed. So she immediately apologized because she thought that a man who practices magic, because they are very similar to him. It turns out that it was her husband, and she mixed them up due to the fact that they have the same hair color. In fact, a lot of people confused them, and they got used to it. After that, she left, and that knight called her, who told that a guest had come to her. But she did not understand who could personally come to her, because she did not call anyone and did not wait. But if she only knew who she would see now, she would never leave her room that day so as not to see him. This was exactly the kind of man she would never want to see and know. She did not even know what to talk to him about, and was afraid to approach him even a step forward, because it is not known what to expect from him. She knew very well what kind of person he was, and knew that it was better to be wary of him. He greeted her and tried to smile as if they were some kind of good acquaintances, and also said that he was glad that everything was all right with her, only it was not clear why he had come and what he needed. He asked why she was shaking. Is she being mistreated here? When in fact she was just afraid of him and did not know what to do, because there was no one around. She consoled herself with the fact that she was in the palace, and there were a lot of guards. So in any case, someone could save her. At some point he offered to talk about something and asked where her room was. But at that moment, fortunately, someone approached them, and Sophia immediately calmed down, because she saw someone nearby. Only she didn't know who it was, but the very fact that she was not alone now calmed her down a lot, and she stopped being afraid. It was the wife of the Magus, with whom Sophia had just talked. Thanks to her, the topic of the conversation changed, and they began to discuss something else. After that, they began to get to know each other and talk about themselves, because they see each other for the first time, only they didn't know who they really were yet, and tried to create a good impression of themselves. They started to say that they were glad to meet you, and it is a great honor for them. It's good that it took a long time, and Sophia managed to calm down, and didn't worry anymore. Suddenly, at some point, that man reminded that he had an important conversation with Sophia, and apologized for having to change the subject. But this woman, in response, completely forgot that she prevented them from talking, and got into the conversation, and said that it was she who should apologize for such behavior. In his eyes, it was clear that he wanted to quickly talk to the girl, and he was in the mood for a very serious conversation. Only she didn't want this at all, and if she had her will, she would have kicked him out of the palace long ago. Suddenly, the woman who was about to leave reminded that Sophia agreed to talk with her now, and they agreed on something. So they were forced to leave with her on business, but didn't apologize and told the man that they had a really important conversation. Only Sophia didn't understand why this woman was saving her, and why she needed it. It was clear that he didn't like it very much, and he didn't think that someone would stop him from talking to Sophia. But a real miracle happened, and that woman decided to prevent it. She seemed to feel that the girl did not want to stay with him. He looked at them and was very angry, because all his plans were ruined and he had to either leave or wait until Sophia was released. His choice depends on how much he wants to talk to her, and if he doesn't, he'll just leave. When they were going about their business together with the girl, Sophia looked at this woman and did not understand what had just happened, and how she understood that her help was very needed at that moment. She said that her husband was probably in the emperor's office and asked Sophia to take her there. And the girl, of course, agreed to this because she was very grateful for this act. And yet she could not resist and asked why this woman took her away, thereby telling a lie to that man. And she replied that how could she leave her there when she was trembling all over? And it was clear that something was wrong. The woman didn't know the reason and said that there are times when it's better to run than fight. And Sophia tried to thank this woman because she is really very smart and helped the girl the most needed moment. She was very pleased that someone was just so ready to help her without any benefit, but simply because to make the person pleased. When suddenly the woman's husband meets them, he asks what Sophia is doing here because he did not expect to see her here. Only now it seems that he was not entirely happy to see her, and he especially did not like the fact that she calls him grandpa. Because of this, he often gets angry with her, and he was against Sophia going with them somewhere on business. And his wife, on the contrary, suggested that the three of us go, despite the fact that her husband was very angry and showed with all his appearance that he was against it. His wife still stood her ground and did not listen to him, just tried to calm him down and agree on how it would be better. Sophia immediately realized that she was the main one in their family. It's just very clear how he obeys his wife in everything, even if he doesn't agree with something. Only Sophia still didn't understand where they needed to go and what they would need to do, because in general she was going to pick up flowers and take them to the emperor's room. Only plans very rarely changed. Women still asked Sophia to be her interlocutor, because this old man is too boring, and she will not be interested in talking to him. Now Sophia understands exactly who is holding this grandpa in her paws, because she seems to be smiling. But at the same time, they do it the way she wants it, and nothing else. And after that, they went about their business. In a carriage, only the girl did not yet know where they were going and how much time it would take. When she saw that the palace is very high above the water in a huge abyss, in addition, the bridge is interrupted and a cliff is created, she was simply shocked by this, and realized that even if she ran away, there was no way she could get out of there, and she would be trapped. Only those who know how to use magic could cope with this bridge, and only they could help someone leave the palace. There was no other way to get out of there, and in fact, those who want to escape will regret it very much, and will not be able to do it. Literally, in 1 minute they managed to extend the bridge, and as if temporarily restore it with the help of magic to the very end, and it was even possible to drive over it. It's amazing, the girl couldn't believe what she just saw with her eyes. And if it were not for the magicians who know how to do this, and have a lot of experience, then there would be no entrance or exit in the palace. This is truly impressive.